Shout out to Adam in the chat. Mass Stafford. We're gonna make a jersey, put it on. All right. There was an ESPN article out a couple days ago about Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart did a sit-down interview with Chris Lowe, answered as many questions as Leland Barrow would allow him to answer, and then got up out of there. But it gave us some really, really good talking points. And here's how we're going to do this. We are going to just go around the room and surmise this pretty lengthy article for you guys with just some talking points that we thought were worth bringing to you, like this one right here. Kirby Smart hasn't lost a football game to an active head coach in 5 seasons.
I believe it.
That'll play.
I can't remember who it was.
5 seasons.
That would be 2019.
If it's 20, I think it was. Where's Tom Herman coaching?
FAU?
I think it's Tom Herman because 2019 was Ed Orgeron and Will Muschamp. 2020 was Nick Saban and Dan Mullen.
Yeah, Tom Herman's at FAU.
So then,
I mean, again, why can't my brain do this with anything?
I don't know.
I guess it's good that I do it. My brain does it with the thing that I make money off of. So that's good.
I mean, you are doing it as a job.
That's ideal. So. Yeah, that's ideal there. But yeah, where were we at?
Talking about the article and how he hasn't lost to
hasn't lost to an active head coach in 5 years. That's pretty nuts.
That is nuts.
That's
literally
insane.
Nick Saban.
It was like the opening line of just how dominant Kirby is. Was like the first 3 paragraphs of this.
Yeah, gave a little good synopsis.
He's the guy, and here's why. What'd you guys get next? I guess let's try to stay in linear fashion here with the article.
Oh, well, my first one came from the very bottom. I know this is one that you mentioned. I thought it was interesting how he talks about holding back Carson Beck at the beginning of the season. Well, I said that you brought it up, so I went with it.
It's fine.
Anyways, but yeah, he talked about how they were too slow letting him out the gate. Like they kind of held him back a little bit in regards to allowing him do what he does best, like in those opening weeks of the game. That they took too long to really just say, like, this dude's a guy. We need to go let him play. So I thought it was interesting that he kind of brought that to the surface and felt that the staff was responsible for maybe some of the slower play at the beginning.
The first one that kind of stuck out to me was when Chris Lowe asked him, immediately after the loss in Atlanta, was like, did you know that your season was pretty much over there? And Kirby Smart's response to it was kind of, I hoped it wasn't. I knew we had one of the 4 best teams, but deep down in my heart, I knew we were not getting in.
Oh, buddy, they knew. It was spin zone immediately to the media. Like, not that they do this very often, but they knew. They knew that they needed some laboring to get in, right? Some help. And it was, they had the stat ready immediately. It was like no one loss. Some stat that they had. No one loss SEC team had ever not made it or something like that.
No number 1 team had ever lost in the conference championship and fallen out of the top 4.
They had that stat ready as soon as I got, before we even got into Kirby's presser, they gave it to us out in the hallway. So they knew that they had to have some lobbying here. I took a different approach on that comment there, or at least that section of the article. And to me, when I hear coach speak, I think sometimes it can get a little mundane. I think some people get a little tired of hearing some of this stuff, but it's very obvious the programs where coach speak works and players listen to the coach and they believe in what he's saying. And this is a prime example. Quote, you focus on what's in front of you and get better. You don't sit around and mope about what might have been. That was his response about how you got your team back up for the Orange Bowl game. Every coach speaks like that. Every single coach. Mike Norvell has comments like that. Okay? But right before watching all of his team opt out, he has comments like that where we're talking and we're acting like this in one sentence and in front of one microphone or one set of cameras, and then our building reacts in a total different facet than what we speak to the public with. That's the opposite of what Kirby's ever done. Like when I hear Kirby coach speak, Matt Fryan.
Dude, the chat's been dropping them.
Chat's been getting
they're eating it up, man.
Jay Cutlet. Well, it's not bad.
My gosh. I also thought it was interesting. I know he mentioned he talked about his relationship with Nick Saban, but I thought my biggest takeaway from it was he got asked about, like, do you hate that he left the game and that you didn't get to beat him more than you did? And he said, honestly, the fact that I coached under him for so many years, like that made me have respect for him. And that made it made the losses not hurt as much because you respect him so much and he knew that what he was doing was a great thing. Like obviously he was a great coach. He said, but if I didn't coach for him, I probably would have sat around my program and been like, man, I couldn't beat the GOAT more times than I did, or like I could never get over that hump, like all of those things. I thought it was interesting. He said the reason him coaching under Saban made those losses more acceptable.
Yeah, and I mean, you could see that in basically every game they coached against each other with. There was a large amount of respect from when they met before the game, after the game. I mean, the embrace that they had after the 2021 national championship is kind of iconic now just because of what Nick said. You know, you kicked our ass in the fourth quarter. So things such as that where, yeah, it was obvious that Kirby Smart really respected him and wanted to beat him, but was probably the most satisfied coach, the most satisfied to lose to a coach. Like if he was going to have to lose to someone, it would be Nick Saban, and the other way around.
I don't hear Kirby use the word love very often.
Yeah.
I mean, except for about football and his family, maybe. That's really it.
And his players.
And his players. He loves Nick Saban. He said that in this article. I also had another spin on this. I wish he was still here, right? That's the quote you're talking about. Hear me out here. Kirby Smart is to Patrick Mahomes as Nick Saban is to Tom Brady. Tom Brady will forever have a 4-1 record or whatever it was against Patrick.
Yeah.
And Patrick will go on to have whatever career he ultimately has. But at the end of it, 30 years from now, people on, they'll roll Skip Bayless's bitch ass out on Fox Sports, and he'll sit there and was it bitch ass? Is that what got you? They'll roll him out there, and he'll be like, you know what? We don't even have to have this debate. I can't do a Skip Bayless impersonation. We don't even have to have this debate. Tom Brady got him. Long way in their prime of the prime. He's old. Blah, 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 blah. Tom Brady got him.
Yeah.
1 in 5, he'll always live that. He'll always live 1 in 5 versus Nick Saban. And no matter what it looks like moving forward, it's going to be really, really hard to win an argument about Kirby being the GOAT when they have that head-to-head record.
Exactly. And I think that's why so many fans, including me, were disappointed when Nick Saban retires, because Kirby doesn't have more chances to go out and beat him. Like if that's a 3-5 record or a 5-5 record, I mean, things go a lot more better for Kirby Smart. And like you said, you are right. History's not going to be kind to Kirby Smart in that regard, because 20 years from now, 15-year-old kids are going to say, yeah, Kirby Smart was a good coach, but Nick Saban beat him 4 times out of 5. Like things such as that, or 5 times out of 6. So yeah, that is definitely something. Mm-hmm. The one that kind of got my attention as well was talking about the 12-team playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He kind of said that he likes the idea of it, how you're not punished for 1 or 2 losses, but then he went and also said that he hates the idea that the SEC championship is basically a do or die situation where if you're not winning the SEC championship, you have to immediately, you won't get a bye, you have to go and play 2 more games than the SEC champion would. And he talked about how our team was 12-0 this year, and if we lost to this game, we've been punished just as hard. So he does bring up a good point about how the conference championships, or the weight that conference championships have is kind of out of whack right now with this format.
I thought, again, the Kirbyism out of that, or the Kirby moment out of that, was recognizing the time difference. You only have 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? The 2-week rollover is a major disadvantage. Again, every once in a while, not every once in a while, almost every time he speaks, he says something where I'm like, shit, I never thought about that. I never gave, mind to that thought. And that's exactly why he is who he is. So the turnaround right there, like you said, is going to be a little bit different. He very clearly believes his practice habits are the reason that they win national titles. I mean, it's so obvious in the way that they talk, where he's talking about, he doesn't say it, but he's like, I'm trying to kill these kids. Monday through Thursday. I'm trying to make sure that they know for a fact I ain't never gonna do nothing on the sport of football's planet Earth that's ever gonna be harder than Monday through Thursday at the University of Georgia. And that provides a level of confidence. And by the way, almost every single leaked audio that we hear is him saying something along the lines of, like, this is why we do this shit. We do this shit so we come into this football room and this locker room right before the game, and we have a sense of calm in our bellies. He doesn't say that, but you guys played the sports. Y'all understand there is a level of nervousness right before a game because you don't know. At the University of Georgia, they know. You know what I mean? I couldn't imagine the the difference in how you feel going out, because I know we have suffered. We have done this.
There is something, sorry to cut you off. There is something to kind of take solace in, knowing that the most important part of, are you still reading chat?
Someone called me Vince Drooly. That's just me.
I'm hung up on picnic chub.
But no, there is some solace you can take in the fact that the most important part of your week is the easiest. Like Monday through Friday can be hell for you, and Saturdays are the easiest part, and that's the part that actually truly matters. I think there is some kind of confidence that gives you.
I think it's one thing too for Kirby Smart to believe in that his practicing hard is what creates all of this success. But I mean, you talk to his players once they leave college, they talk about it. They talk about how they practice so hard that it makes NFL practices seem like nothing. Like the players believe in that, and that I feel like that's a hard thing to probably get your players to believe in. Like, man, going through tough practices, like there was nothing more. At least for me, like when I knew a tough day of practice was ahead of me, like you dread that. Like you're just like, I got to get through this. I got to go do this. But for them to believe like that, they need to care about that, and they know that it's good for them, and that's going to bring good things for them. I think that's special.
The SEC's in trouble. You know why?
Why?
Carson Beck's in do not disturb mode. I love how kids do this nowadays on Instagram. They'll post like 4 photos and then a meme at the end on Instagram, and it's like, them, you a texter or FaceTimer, me, a do not disturber. Carson Beck in his zone. This quote right here. Now, I think this is the key to getting Kirby to actually say something, is to make sure he knows that there's no video available. Because video seems to go more viral than some of these quotes. But I've never heard him speak like this about a portion of his roster. You ready for this? Yeah. About the offensive line?
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear this?
Mm-hmm.
Smart. Either we're maybe a little weaker on the defensive line or we're really good on the offensive line. The glaring thing I've seen at practices is that the offensive line has done a really good job. That's not to say we were subpar on the defensive line last year. We just weren't great. We didn't have a dominant guy, but we're always going to be good on defense. I don't know that we're going to be great this year, but I think we have a chance to be great on offense. So to hear him hype up the offensive line, something we've heard all spring from sources, but like we hadn't heard it out of Kirby's mouth. 9 times out of 10, Kirby's like a wait and see guy. Don't want to give any props to anybody, but he's hyping this offensive line up. He must know there's something special. And by the way, I think there's gonna be something special.
He's doing one of 2 things. He's either hyping up his offensive line, or he's saying my defensive line isn't where they need to be. I'm gonna call him out on a public interview that I know my players, I know fans, I know everyone's gonna read and light a fire under their ass. And I think it's more probably the latter. Yeah. Just because I think Kirby Smart doesn't mind complimenting his units when it's warranted, but I think he enjoys it. I don't want to say insulting, but kind of talking about things that they need to get better at as a way to motivate them.
Here's one that came straight from the building, and I want to ask this to the chat, and here's your homework. Find me the college football program in this country that returns 2 defensive linemen who have NFL draft grades anywhere from 3rd to the 5th round. As much as we want to talk about how bad Georgia's, or how not great, how they don't have a difference maker Georgia's defensive line is, Nazir Stackhouse would have been a 4th round draft pick this year. He's going to play his way into a 3rd or play his way into a 5th round draft selection this year no matter what. All right? Same thing for Warren Brinson. Warren Brinson was a 3rd, 4th round draft pick this year. He's either going to play his way into the bottom end of the 2nd round, or he's going to play his way into the 4th round. But again, find me the national title contender right now that has 2 interior defensive linemen returning that you know are NFL football players. You'd be hard pressed. You'd be really hard pressed to do so. So as much as they probably are, and they are getting at times dominated on the defensive line during the spring, they are really, really much better, I should say. That's really, really much better. They are much better than the national kind of talking points about their defensive line.
Yeah, I thought that one stuck out as well. Like, you always talk about Kirby Smart dropping a nug, and you got to really look for it, and you got to stay on top of your toes to really notice it. That was one that I noticed of like, ooh, that's an interesting comment to make there.
Someone call me Taki Smith.
Taki Smith.
Taki's overrated.
I think the ones that fans would love specifically is I think it's actually the last paragraph or so. And he got asked about just the overall success. Like, what does that do for your program, knowing that you have back-to-back national titles? Like, how does that feel knowing that you have that moving forward? And he gave a really long quote about just how great it was, about like how the fact that they really only had one down year and it was his first year he got there. But about at the tail end of the quote, he said, "But I want more than relevance. I want dominance. And we've been more dominant in the last 3 years. What I don't want are the ebbs and flows or the one-hit wonders you see out there. I don't want any player to leave Georgia without a championship."
They got a good shot at it moving forward.
I sure do.
You got to win 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4.
One every 3 seasons.
Yeah,
basically.
1 every 3 seasons. I think they got a good shot to do so moving forward, just because they're going to have shots at it every single year because of this new model. I thought the most poignant quote in there, and he slipped it in again. Man, this is how he talk a little different when he doesn't have a microphone in front of him. When he's just got one of these little recorders and nobody else in the room, which I would imagine how Chris Lowe did this interview. There's a quote in there, talks about the old head that stayed for NIL.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The old head that stayed for NIL. That is not something we've heard him have transparency about. It's not something we've heard a lot of college football coaches have transparency about, hey, this guy's coming back because we're paying him, you know?
Right.
Like I appreciate the transparency, but
100%.
It's rare to get that kind of stuff. He's obviously talking about his defensive line.
Yeah.
And Xavier Truss.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It comes in a comment where he's like, we got more 5th and 6th year guys than we've ever had before.
He's talking about the gap, how we've got so many like really old guys and then so many really young guys, and there's not really a lot in between.
He said it's almost like having 2 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, if we're going to keep doing the fat jokes, let's do it strictly with the quarterbacks. Okay? It's like Brisket Bowers. It's a great one, but he plays tight end. We're going to be out here slinging the pill. Okay? So let's keep it to maybe like Jamarcus Don't Hustle.
I mean, that could have been a name for him.
Yeah. And myself as well. So.
Do you have any more you want?
No, I think that's it.
I've